My girlfriend's friends set up a test where she'd pretend to break up with me. Reddit stories. My girlfriend's friends engineered a test. A twisted little social experiment where she'd pretend to end things with me just to see how I'd react. When she finally said those words, "It's over," I didn't fight it. I smiled and said, "Thank God. Now I can stop pretending I don't know about you and Mike." You should have seen their faces when they realized their perfect little test had just blown up in their hands. I'm 28, she's 27. We'd been together for 2.5 years, long enough to talk about moving in together, long enough to think we knew each other. We kept separate apartments, which, looking back, might have been the only thing that saved me from an even messier ending. For months, though, something had felt wrong. Not obvious, not dramatic, just off. Her phone stayed face down on every surface. Questions about her day were met with vague answers and defensive walls I couldn't climb. Call it instinct, call it paranoia. Either way, I felt it. Last Saturday night, I was at her place for what I thought would be another ordinary evening. But her two best friends were there, lingering with a strange energy that set my nerves on edge. I sat on the couch, scrolling my phone, pretending not to notice how they watched me. Then she muted the TV. "We need to talk," she said, her voice rehearsed, like she'd been practicing lines for a play I wasn't cast in. I glanced up. Her friends were staring at me like predators waiting for movement. One had her phone aimed right at my face, barely hiding the fact she was recording. The other leaned forward, eyes wide, practically vibrating with anticipation. "Okay," I said slowly, already knowing this wasn't going to be what it seemed. "I've been thinking a lot lately," she continued, voice flat and mechanical. "I think we should break up. It's over between us." The silence that followed was thick. I studied her face, then looked at her friends. One was biting her lip, fighting a smile. The other's eyes darted back and forth between us like she was watching the climax of a movie. That phone was still pointed straight at me. And just like that, it all made sense. 3 weeks earlier, I'd seen the group chat. She'd left her laptop open at my place while she showered, and a notification flashed across the screen. The test will show if he really loves her. I wasn't trying to snoop, but I also wasn't about to ignore that. So I clicked, and I read everything. They'd been planning this for weeks. Her friends had convinced her that real love meant desperation, that a man who truly cared would cry, beg, make grand gestures when threatened with loss. They wanted to stage a breakup to measure my reaction. If I broke down and fought for her, I passed. If I stayed calm or accepted it, I clearly didn't love her enough, and she should dump me for real. It was toxic, manipulative. But that wasn't even the worst part. While scrolling through that chat, I found older messages. 2 months back. My girlfriend venting about a coworker who'd been flirting with her. Her friends encouraging her to explore her options and see what's out there. Screenshots of texts between her and this guy, texts that were anything but professional. Messages about how he got her in ways I didn't. Plans to meet up for drinks she never mentioned to me. Him calling her beautiful. Her responding with heart emojis. I spent the next 3 weeks quietly connecting dots. She started working late more often, twice a week, then 3 times. Her phone never left her side. New passwords on everything. She dressed differently for work, too. Better makeup, nicer clothes. I didn't confront her because I needed to be certain. I needed time to process the betrayal before I acted. So when she delivered her fake breakup, I saw my opening. This was my chance to end it on my terms. I set my phone down, looked her straight in the eyes, and let the relief flood my voice. Oh, thank God, finally. Now I can stop pretending I don't know about you and your co-worker." The silence was deafening. You could have heard a heartbeat from across the room. Her best friend's jaw dropped. The other one fumbled her phone like it burned her hands. My girlfriend's face drained of color in half a second. Smug confidence replaced by absolute terror. "What?" she stammered, voice cracking. "Yeah, him. The one you've been meeting up with after working late. The one sending you texts about how he can't stop thinking about you, how you're the most beautiful woman in the office. That guy. How do you even—" "Doesn't matter how I know. What matters is I know. So yeah, if you want to break up, I'm honestly relieved. This saves me a really awkward conversation I've been dreading." I stood up and grabbed my jacket. Her friends were frozen, statues caught mid-breath. This wasn't the script they'd written. They wanted tears and desperation. They got calm acceptance and a bomb nobody saw coming. "Wait. Her best friend jumped up, waving her hands like she could erase what just happened. This was just a test. She wasn't really breaking up with you. It was supposed to see if you'd fight for her." I laughed, actually laughed out loud. "A test? You're telling me my girlfriend of 2.5 years just fake dumped me to see if I'd cry and beg? And you think that's the issue here?" My girlfriend started crying. Real tears this time, not the performance from moments before. "It's not what you think. Nothing happened with him. We're just friends from work." "The texts say otherwise," I said quietly. "But honestly, I don't even care anymore. You wanted to play games and you found out I wasn't playing the same one." I walked toward the door. Her best friend stepped in front of me. "You can't just leave. You're overreacting. Whatever you think you saw, it's probably nothing. Move, now." She moved. Something in my face must have told her I wasn't negotiating. I walked out, didn't look back, and blocked my girlfriend's number before I even reached my car. My hands shook the whole drive home, not from anger exactly, but from relief. Like I'd been holding my breath underwater for 3 weeks and finally broke the surface. The weight I'd been carrying was suddenly gone. It hurt. Don't get me wrong, 2.5 years is a long time. But the hurt was cleaner. Sharper than the doubt and suspicion I'd been drowning in. I could live with this kind of pain. 4 days later, the fallout started rolling in like a storm. My ex, because that's what she was now, tried reaching me through every channel imaginable. Since I'd blocked her number, she used her friends' phones, her mom's phone, her cousin's phone, random numbers I didn't recognize. I blocked 15 different numbers in 4 days. The voicemails ranged from sobbing apologies to furious accusations. "Baby, please, it wasn't what it looked like. Just call me back." Then, "You're being so immature right now. I can't believe you're throwing away 2 years over nothing." And my personal favorite, "This is emotional abuse. You know that, right? Silent treatment is abuse." Her best friend called me a psychopath for manipulating an innocent test, like I was the mastermind villain in their twisted fairy tale. The mental gymnastics were Olympic level. Her other friend sent me a novel, 12 paragraphs explaining that their test was scientifically designed to measure emotional attachment, and that my cold reaction proved I never truly loved my ex. She cited TikTok as her source. I screenshot that one for posterity. Then, yesterday, my ex showed up at my apartment building. Didn't buzz up, just waited in the parking lot until another resident came in and slipped through the door behind them. She was standing outside my door when I got home from work, eyes swollen and red, looking like she hadn't slept in days. "Please," she said immediately. "Just let me explain. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. There's nothing to explain. You tested me. I failed your test. And, oh, by the way, I know you were getting cozy with your coworker. We're done here. I didn't sleep with him. Her voice echoed down the hallway. Lower your voice. My neighbors don't need the drama. Nothing physical happened. It was just texting, just flirting. It didn't mean anything. I never would have actually done anything. Cool. So, emotional cheating doesn't count. Good to know where your line is. She cried harder, mascara streaking down her face. You don't understand what it's been like. You've been so distant lately, so focused on work all the time. He made me feel seen, feel appreciated, feel wanted. I stared at her for a long moment. You're seriously standing here blaming me for you flirting with another guy while your friends were planning to fake dump me to test my love. You see how absolutely insane that sounds, right? You see the contradiction. She wiped her eyes, smearing makeup across her cheeks. The test was stupid, I know that now. I should never have listened to them. But what we have is real. You can't just throw away 2.5 years over a mistake. You threw it away when you started hiding things from me. I'm just accepting the reality you created. She grabbed my arm, fingers digging in. Please, I'll do anything. Couples therapy, whatever you want. I'll quit my job so I never see him again. I'll cut off my friends who suggested the test. Whatever it takes. That's not necessary. We're done. Please leave. She didn't leave. She sat down, right there in the hallway outside my door, crying, saying she wasn't going anywhere until I talked to her for real. She literally planted herself on the floor like a protester chained to a tree. I went inside, locked the door, and called building security. They arrived 15 minutes later and escorted her out. Through the door, I heard her pleading with them, insisting I was her boyfriend, and this was all a misunderstanding. Security didn't care. Not on the lease, not allowed to loiter. But here's where it gets really interesting. Her mom called me the next morning. I'd always liked her mom. Nice woman, made incredible food at holidays, seemed reasonable. So I answered, thinking maybe she'd be the voice of sanity in all this chaos. Sweetheart, she said. She always called me that. I heard what happened between you two. I'm so sorry my daughter put you through that silly test. It was immature and wrong. But you have to understand, she's absolutely devastated. She made a mistake with that coworker situation, but nothing physical happened. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive her? She loves you so much. I took a slow breath, choosing my words carefully. Ma'am, I respect you a lot, so I'm going to be completely honest. Your daughter didn't just make a mistake. She actively pursued emotional intimacy with another guy while simultaneously planning to test whether I loved her enough. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern of behavior. That's a choice she made repeatedly. But she loves you. She's been crying for days. She won't eat, won't sleep. This is destroying her. I believe she's upset, but being upset isn't the same as being sorry. She's upset she got caught. There's a difference. Long pause. When she spoke again, her tone had shifted, colder, harder. You know, I always thought you were a good young man. I welcomed you into my home. But walking out on my daughter when she needs you most, when she's at her lowest point, that's cruel. Real men fight for their relationships. Real men don't abandon ship at the first sign of trouble. Real relationships don't require tests and backup options. Ma'am, take care of yourself. I hung up. 5 minutes later, a text from an unknown number. You're going to regret this. My daughter deserves so much better than someone who gives up so easily. You'll see. I blocked it. The thing that got to me most through all of this wasn't the harassment. It was how everyone in her circle acted like I was the villain. Like planning a fake breakup and flirting with another guy was perfectly acceptable behavior. But me walking away was the unforgivable sin. The entitlement was staggering. 10 days later, things escalated fast. My ex started showing up at random hours, sometimes alone, sometimes with her friends flanking her like bodyguards. Tuesday night at 11, she was buzzing my apartment repeatedly, holding the button down. Wednesday morning at 6:30, her best friend was in the parking lot, leaning against my car, waiting for me to leave for work. When I walked past her, she stepped directly into my path. You know she tried to hurt herself, right? Because of you. I stopped cold. Is she okay? Oh, now you care. Now you're concerned. Is she okay? She scoffed. She's fine. It wasn't serious. But she's not eating, not sleeping. She had to take time off work. This is destroying her life, and you're just living yours like nothing happened. If she's struggling with her mental health, she needs professional help, not me taking her back. That's not going to fix anything. You're heartless. 2.5 years together, and you just shut off all your emotions like a robot, like a machine. What is wrong with you? I processed my emotions when I found out she was getting close to another guy. I had 3 weeks to come to terms with everything before your little test. What you saw at her apartment wasn't me shutting off. It was me being done. She had no response. Just stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. But the dirty tricks were just beginning. 2 days later, I got a call from my landlord's office. Someone had filed an anonymous complaint claiming I was running an illegal business out of my apartment. Excessive noise at all hours, suspicious visitors coming and going. My landlord knows me well. I've been a quiet, reliable tenant for 3 years. He said he didn't believe it, but policy required him to follow up. I asked if the complaint included specifics. He said it mentioned possible drug activity and concerns from multiple neighbors. Drug activity. They were actually trying to get me evicted. I explained the situation. Messy breakup, ex-girlfriend, and her friends not handling it well. Attempts to make my life difficult. He said he'd note it in my file and not to worry unless something concrete surfaced, but to let him know if anything else happened. Then came the friend group warfare. My ex and I had mutual friends from when we first started dating, people we'd both hung out with at parties and gatherings over the years. She got to them first. Suddenly, I was getting texts from people I hadn't talked to in months, asking what really happened in that loaded way that told me they'd already heard her version. One guy I used to be close with sent me, "Dude, I heard you've been stalking her, going through her phone and laptop." That's pretty messed up if true. I gave him a brief explanation. The test, the coworker situation, me walking away. His response, "IDK, man, that's not what she's saying. She said you were controlling the whole relationship and this was her trying to get out." I didn't bother responding. Believe what you want. But here's what pushed me from passive to active. I found out through a coworker who happened to know someone at my ex's company that she'd been telling people at her office I was stalking her and she was afraid for her safety. She was building a narrative, creating a paper trail, painting me as the bad guy, just in case. That's when I decided to stop playing defense. My response? Step 1, I documented everything obsessively. Every voicemail saved to the cloud. Every text screenshot and organized by date. Every instance of her or her friends showing up at my apartment, logged with times and descriptions. The fake complaint to my landlord, noted and filed. I created a detailed spreadsheet like I was building a legal case, because I realized I might actually need one. Step 2, I contacted a lawyer. Not a friend who knows law stuff, but an actual attorney who handles harassment cases. I showed him everything. He said I easily had grounds for a cease and desist letter, and if the behavior continued, we could pursue a restraining order. He drafted the letter that same day. Step 3, and this is where I went on offense, I called my ex's coworker, the one she'd been texting. This might seem petty, but hear me out. I knew from the screenshots that this guy was married. His wife came up multiple times in the messages. My ex and her friends had actually joked about his wife being clueless and oblivious. The messages were still saved on my phone from when I'd photographed her laptop screen weeks ago. I didn't contact his wife directly. That felt like punishing someone who hadn't wronged me. But I did call him. Found his number through some basic searching. He had a pretty active professional presence online. I called at 6 p.m. on a Thursday. Hello? Confused voice. He didn't recognize my number. Hey, you don't know me, but I'm your coworker's ex-boyfriend. Or, more accurately, the guy she was dating while you two were having your little emotional affair. Dead silence. I could practically hear him sweating through the phone. I'm not calling to threaten you or start anything, I continued. But I want you to know that I have screenshots of every text you sent her. The ones about how her boyfriend doesn't appreciate her properly. The ones where you talk about meeting up without your wife knowing. The ones where you call her beautiful, and she sends back hearts. I have all of it. What do you want? His voice had gone shaky, thin. Honestly? Nothing from you. I don't want your money. I don't want an apology. I don't want anything. But here's the situation. Your affair partner and her friends have been harassing me for almost 2 weeks, showing up at my apartment, trying to get me evicted with fake complaints, spreading rumors about me. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell her to leave me completely alone. No more contact, no more showing up, no more games, ever. And if I don't? Then those screenshots might accidentally find their way to your HR department. Or maybe your wife's email inbox. Depends on my mood that day. Honestly, I'm not usually a vindictive person, but I'm running real low on patience right now. That's blackmail. No, it's a warning, a courtesy actually. Tell her to stop. Make sure she actually stops. And none of this has to go anywhere. Keep in mind, I'm not asking for money or favors. I just want to be left alone. That's literally all I want. He agreed immediately, practically tripped over himself apologizing, promising to handle it, swearing he'd make it stop. Step 4. The cease and desist letter was sent the next morning to my ex and her best friend via certified mail. It laid out everything. The harassment, the showing up at my apartment, the fake complaint to my landlord, the spreading of false rumors. It made crystal clear that any further contact would result in immediate legal action. The silence that followed was beautiful. 3 weeks later, it worked. The harassment stopped almost immediately after my call with the coworker and the delivery of the cease and desist. I don't know exactly what he said to my ex, but she went from constant contact attempts to complete radio silence within 24 hours. Her friends stopped showing up. No more anonymous complaints. No more mutual friends reaching out with loaded questions. I finally had peace. But of course, there was one last gasp of entitlement. There always is. My lawyer called me last week. He'd received a letter from an attorney representing my ex. She was demanding, 1, $5,000 for emotional distress caused by my harassment campaign against her. 2, deletion of all screenshots and documentation I'd gathered. 3, a written signed apology for defamation. 4, assurance that I would never contact her coworker again. I actually laughed when he read it to me. The audacity was almost impressive. My lawyer's response was short and devastating. He pointed out that she had been the one showing up at my residence, not the other way around. The anonymous complaint to my landlord constituted harassment. I had documented evidence of her attempting to damage my reputation. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. Her own text messages proved the emotional affair. Any lawsuit she filed would require discovery, which would expose all those messages to public record, including to the coworker's wife. We never heard from her lawyer again. I guess they advised her to cut her losses, but the real fallout came from the coworker situation. Remember how I said I didn't contact his wife? Well, I didn't have to. About a week after my call with him, my ex apparently confronted him at work, loudly, in front of other employees. She accused him of throwing her under the bus, of choosing his wife over her, and a bunch of other stuff that made it very clear to everyone within earshot what had been going on between them. HR got involved immediately. Investigation launched. Turned out their company had a pretty strict policy about workplace relationships, especially when one party is married. Also turned out this wasn't his first time doing something like this. There'd been complaints before, just nothing concrete. He got fired, officially for creating a hostile work environment, but everyone knew the real reason. My ex didn't get fired, but she got put on a performance improvement plan. Apparently, she was so humiliated she quit 2 weeks later. Couldn't handle walking past people who all knew what she'd done. I only found out about all this through the grapevine, my coworker who knows people at her company. I didn't seek the information out, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel like some kind of cosmic justice. Here's where everyone ended up. My ex moved back in with her parents. Unemployed, humiliated. From what I hear, her friendships are strained because the people who pushed her toward the test feel guilty, and she resents them for it. The whole friend group that planned this has apparently fractured. Turns out, shared guilt doesn't bring people together. The co-worker's marriage survived. Barely. They're in intensive couples therapy and apparently sleeping in separate rooms. His career took a major hit. Getting fired for workplace misconduct in a relatively small industry doesn't exactly open doors. Her best friend, the one who masterminded the test, actually blocked me on everything after receiving the cease and desist. Like, somehow, I was the aggressor. The lack of self-awareness would be funny if it wasn't so sad. Her mom apparently told mutual acquaintances that I destroyed her daughter's life, and that she always knew there was something wrong with me. People who actually know the situation have been pushing back on that narrative, but she's sticking to it. Some people would rather be wrong than admit they were wrong about someone. As for me, I'm doing okay. Not great, but okay, genuinely okay. 2.5 years is a long time to be with someone. Even knowing everything I know now, there are moments I miss her. Miss what I thought we had. The good times were real, even if the foundation was rotting underneath the whole time. I've been spending more time with my actual friends, the ones who heard the whole story and responded with, "That's insane. Are you okay?" Instead of, "Well, maybe you should have fought harder for her." My sister's been great, calling every few days to check in. My mom sent me a care package with my favorite snacks, which was both sweet and a little embarrassing at 28. I'm not dating yet. Haven't even opened a dating app. Don't really have the energy or the interest, maybe in a few months, maybe longer. For now, I'm just enjoying the peace, the quiet. No more tests, no more checking if my girlfriend's phone is face down, no more wondering why she's working late again. No more gut feelings I have to ignore to keep the peace. The thing I keep thinking about is how close I came to never knowing. If I hadn't seen that laptop notification, if she'd been just a little more careful, I would have failed their stupid test. I would have begged and cried and fought for us like they wanted. She would have stayed, feeling validated, while continuing whatever she had going with her coworker. I would have been the fool who proved his love while she kept her options open, and I never would have known. So yeah, thank God for laptop notifications and terrible timing. Some people have asked if I regret how I handled things, if I would do anything differently. The answer is mostly no. I don't regret walking away. I don't regret the documentation or the cease and desist. I don't even really regret calling her coworker. That was just returning serve after they tried to get me evicted from my own apartment. The only thing I might have done differently: left sooner. The moment I saw those texts 3 weeks before the test, I probably should have just ended it then. Instead, I sat with the information, processed it slowly, gave myself time to be absolutely sure. But that delay meant 3 more weeks of pretending everything was fine. 3 more weeks of lying next to someone who was lying to me. That was exhausting in a way I'm still recovering from. Lessons learned. Trust your gut when it's screaming at you. Document everything when things go sideways, and when someone shows you who they really are. Especially through their friends and the company they keep, believe them the first time. Don't wait for a second demonstration. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, you deserve better than being tested. You deserve better than being someone's backup plan while they explore other options. And you deserve to walk away with your head held high when someone treats you like you're disposable. To my ex, if you somehow find this, I hope you figure out why you thought any of this was okay. I hope the therapy helps, but we're done, permanently. What you and your friends did wasn't love. It was control dressed up as romance, and I'm not playing anymore. And to her best friend, the test architect, your scientifically designed relationship test proved exactly one thing. You're terrible at understanding people, and even worse at accepting responsibility for your terrible advice. Maybe work on that before you ruin someone else's relationship. I'm done updating this. Time to move on with my life. Peace.